Okay, so we're coming up towards the end of the session now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn to each of our panelists one by one, just to give us a final sort of soundbite, final piece of advice to take away. So it could be anything from, piece of advice for the students, what you enjoy about your job, why you like being a solicitor. So any sort of takeaway message that we've got. So I'm going to work my way around the screen. So I'll start in the top left-hand corner with Shauna. I think you're on mute again.
Yeah, sorry about that. Basically, I just try and drill home, don't get disheartened when applying for jobs, for training contracts. It's a really hard market, and I know, I sent out hundreds nearly of applications, trying to get, jobs, get my foot even just in the door somewhere. So just, yeah, don't get disheartened, stay kind of motivated and determined. And yeah, I'm really glad I did kind of pursue my career in commercial property, and did the transition and the jump, so just stick with it. Challenges shouldn't really put you off. If anything, it should kind of motivate you and inspire you to kind of work harder.
Fantastic, thank you. Lucy, any final words for the students?
Yeah, I think when it comes to applying for training contracts, it's really important to think about the type of firm that you would like to go into. And I always say, I have a mentee who I always say to her when she's looking at training contract applications, finding your perfect training contract is actually a bit like finding the perfect match on Tinder. So you've got to match up your skills and interests with the firm that you're wanting to apply to, and to demonstrate in your application why you are a good match with them, what you can bring to the firm. So I think that's really important. There's no point, for example, for me, I'm quite happy in a rural firm. I would not be happy in a city firm. And I think you've got to know yourself in that respect, as well as thinking about where you might get a training contract.
Excellent, thank you. Sarah, any words of advice?
Yeah, I think the big thing for me to say to students is network, take advantage. There are so many people out there who've been through exactly the same thing as you, and actually vast amounts of people are willing to help. And you know what, if you ask someone for help and they say no, well then you're in no worse position anyway. That's always been my advice to people. Most people within the legal profession want to help and will give a hand up. People are not pulling up ladders behind them. So come to things like this. Someone asked on the questions about virtual experience programs and virtual internships. Gosh, do whatever is available at the moment. Go on Twitter and follow legal people, because there is so much help and advice out there, and that's how you will get to where you need to get to, because people will help and you don't have to struggle on your own, and most people are incredibly willing to help. So just ask.
I think that's fantastic advice, because as you say, the worst thing anyone can say if you ask for help is no. And as you say, you're in no worse position, so you might as well just be bolshy. Dave, any final words?
Yeah, I've got 2 points. Firstly, don't just rely on grades. Firms are wanting more than grades these days, so you need to be doing the pro bono stuff. Any paralegal work experience you can get, that sort of thing is always favoured by firms. The second piece of advice would be, when making applications, proofread them. So firms hate it when there's, you've answered a question on an application form and it's littered with errors, grammatical errors, spelling errors, that sort of thing. Just go through it multiple times. If you're not good at that sort of thing, then get somebody else to do it for you. So yeah, those would be my 2 main points.
Brilliant, thank you. Sunil, would you like to add anything?
I think Lucy and Sarah have raised a very important point, and Lucy mentioned a key word, which was mentee. I think one thing that has massively helped me in my legal career today is having the right people around me who are there to support me both professionally and personally. So just don't be afraid to reach out to people. There are partners that have been partners at big firms for 20, 30 years, but they were in your position at one point in time, and everybody is really willing to help. So just don't be afraid to network, don't be afraid to sort of reach out to people and build relationships, and just build relationships with as many people in positions that you ultimately want to be in. and keep in touch, because the support and experience they can give you insight to is invaluable. I can say that personally, because a lot of my, I've a lot of support in my legal career has come from a mentor, a guy that trained me many years ago. I don't work for him anymore, but I still, once every couple of days will pick up the phone to him and just get general advice. And I don't think anybody is in a position in their career where they don't need a mentor to guide them and help them. So that's my piece of advice.
Yeah, brilliant advice. Ishrat, any final words?
I think for me, I just would say that the work experience is quite valuable. So I have found it in my life to become a solicitor, quite experience. Work experience was very valuable for me. So I would stress that to get as much experience as possible. So that's really I want to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen, do you have any words of wisdom for the students?
Yeah, I think sometimes, so now I have a few kind of mentees who get quite worried at early stages of their kind of LPC or their degree, where they feel they don't know what kind of practice area they want to do. And the thing I always say is, well, part of the experience and part of the process. I was just saying, I think people can often get quite worried about not knowing exactly what practice area they want to go into at an early stage. And I always say, as much of the process is about actually figuring out what you don't want to do sometimes, as much as you do. Certainly when I was a student, I didn't know that health and safety, and certainly in the criminal sphere, was a practice area that you could do, or that environmental law was a practice area that could support an entire team of solicitors, let alone kind of one or two in one particular area. So I think it's easy sometimes to be a bit hard on yourself, to think, well, actually, hang on, I should know from day one almost where I want to go off and do, what I want to go off and do. And I think I'd echo kind of Shauna, Sarah, and Sunil's points about leveraging that experience of others, trying to ask for help where you can, because actually, if you don't ask, you don't get, and you may not find out about a practice area that you've never even considered, but actually could suit you down to the ground.
Thank you. And lastly, we'll turn to Andrew.
Always a problem going last. Everyone says what you were going to say. But I'd probably just pick it up on networking, and just a practical tip in respect to that, and also a cheeky plug for all the local junior lawyers divisions is to search on Google and find your local junior lawyers division, and also look for the national junior lawyers division. They give a lot of networking opportunities through education events and events like this that John and Sunny have put on. So get involved with them. It's a very easy way and very unpressurized way to network if you go along to those kinds of events. And normally it usually does provide some kind of uptick for you in getting your face known amongst the junior end of the profession.
No, I couldn't agree more, Andrew. It really is a good way to get ahead. And certainly if you're making these connections nice and early, it gets your face known. And then you never know, you're going for an interview, it might be with somebody that you've met before. So it can really help you get ahead. But if anything, it's good just to go along, network with practitioners, get some good advice, and it helps you going forwards. So that brings us to the end of tonight's meeting. I'd like to thank everyone for coming along to watch tonight. I'd like to say a big thank you to everybody that's been on the panel, and of course to Sunny for helping me organise this. The next event that we have is next Monday, and that will be what we've called our Alternative Pathways event. So that's people who are now in practice but have taken various routes to get there, so not the traditional route, hence why we've called it Alternative Pathways. If you'd like to sign up for that event, you're more than welcome to do so. It's on the same page that you've used for this event. Tonight's event has been sponsored by publicspeakingtuition.com. So once again, I'd like to say a huge thank you to everyone for attending, and I will send an email out afterwards to ask for any feedback, either good, or if you think there's anything that can be improved for the future. I'm always open to any criticism whatsoever. It helps make these events better for me and of course better for you. So once again, thank you for attending, and I will see you next time. Thank you.